Okay.
All right, hey everybody, welcome back to our social media platform, Uplift past Crossroads. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. Make sure to subscribe and become a fellow uplifter on our YouTube channel, Uplift past Crossroads. You guys know we got a lot of guests coming on and talking and doing Bible studies with us, talking about their relationship with God, just doing a lot of things, right? So this is one of my fellow seminarians at Colgate Rochester Kozer Divinity School. She's about to be a graduate at CRCDS. So she's in seminary school with me, getting her master's of divinity. So this is Pauline, all right, and for chapel about 2 weeks ago for CRCDS, she tore it up. She preached a sermon, and it was on Rahab, and the way she preached it was phenomenal. Like the way she preached about Rahab, like I can't stand typical traditional sermons that are like they say the same things that everybody else saying and everybody else know about a passage. I like sermons that like people get to the nitty gritty and they pull out stuff that you never thought of before with a text, and they go so deep in it that you receive like empowerment, revelation, just what God wanted to tell you through a passage in the Bible you could have never dreamed of. So that's what Pauline's going to do with the story of Rahab. All right. So I'll let Pauline take it over and just talk about her sermon a little bit, and we're going to collaborate and just talk about her sermon message and how deep it was. All right. So you got it, Pauline.
Okay, Sean, it's good to be here. I really appreciate you wanting to talk about my sermon. But first of all, I want to give credit to um, our professor that at CRCDS that we were doing study on Joshua and Judges, that class. And I think it's Michael, is the professor's name is Michael Sakaris, and he did an amazing job. And so when we started to dive into Joshua and the life of Rahab, the life of Rahab caught me. And not only at that present moment, but how her life turned out to be. That's what really, because she moved from being a prostitute to become a part of the lineage of Jesus. How could that be? And so, my interpretation of Rahab's life is Rahab knew that her anatomy was special, but she didn't understand how it was supposed to be used. And if we know the God we serve that knows the end from the beginning, that sums up God being time as well, because that's what God describes one of his characteristics, some of his characteristics as the first and the last. That's time. The beginning and the end. That's time. The one who was, is, and is to come. That's time. So God knew what Rahab's life was supposed to be before Rahab was even born. And so when Rahab came into this world, she knew that there was something special about her anatomy, but she didn't know how it was supposed to be used. But God knew because she was chosen before she was born to be a part of that lineage, which is special, knowing that Judah, she married into the Judah tribe. That's where Jesus came from. So that's special for you to have your anatomy bringing forth kings and businessmen. You special, but because she didn't know, what was going to come from her within her present moment. She thought that her anatomy was to do business as a sex worker. But God knew that that's what not what it was. She made money, yes, but then there was other stuff for her life. So um when the men entered, the spies entered her place of business, they think that they were going there to spy out the land, but they were actually going there to interrupt Rahab's Chronos moment and to bring in her Kairos moment, which is God's divine time. So there was a lot going on there when those men went to Rahab's place of business. It was to shut it down. God was saying, enough is enough. You have used your anatomy enough for your personal gain. Now it is my time. It is my personal gain. It is God's time now for that anatomy to be used. So we knew the savvy businesswoman she was. She negotiated. She said, listen, I can do this for you, but you do this for me. And not only me, but my family. So once those men left, another man never came there. The business was closed. She filed chapter 13. I'm done. I'm done with this joint. And so she convert her place of business to now a place of refuge. And if you notice now, she started to act from a humanitarian standpoint. She was no longer acting selfishly for her own business and gain. Now she started to save her family. It's time to save her family and herself. So when the men came back and rescued her and her family, and she went to live among the Israelites, then she married Salmon, which was from the tribe of Judah. So now the purpose of her anatomy starts. The divine purpose of her anatomy starts. So she gave birth to a son called Boaz. We know Boaz being a very prominent businessman, kinsman redeemer, who married Ruth. And Boaz and Ruth gave birth to a son named Jesse, Obed. I think Obed. Obed gave birth to us. Obed had a son named Jesse. Jesse had a son named David, man of God's own heart, very prominent king. We know of, his life, wrote a number of the Psalms, found himself in a tricky situation with Bathsheba, had one of the richest and wisest men named Solomon. So if we should look at Rahab's life now, we would understand that this woman's anatomy was special. And then from Solomon, there are other kings that came, and then that dynasty, that David dynasty with Joseph, and then Jesus. being from the tribe of Judah. So Rahab was supposed to be a part of that ancestral journey of Jesus. Um, she wasn't a regular person that anyone would think, as her character, anyone would think that she don't belong, but God uses unconventional people for his purpose. So we need to be careful how we condemn people. We need to be careful how we judge people based on their present situation, because we do not know, and even them themselves don't know, when what is inside of them that is supposed to be of purpose and value to God. So that is very important. Be careful. We don't know.
Mhm.
So that's what drawn me with Rahab, that her life was, her anatomy, put it this way, her anatomy was special.
Mhm. I like how you say anatomy because we don't think of a. I don't think we think of the word anatomy like that, right? Um, I don't know if you disagree with that, but like when you say anatomy, what do you mean? Her anatomy was different. Rahab viewing and knowing her anatomy. I think that's your sermon. Like that's a good thesis statement. Like it's all about knowing your anatomy and how God, created
It's
you
her,
to be. Yeah.
yeah, it's her whole reproductive system. It's her vagina.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She knew it was special, yes, because it was anointed.
Uh huh.
But some girl didn't understand that that was not what it was supposed to be used for.
Uh huh. Yeah. Okay. By the way, I found my notes. All right. My notes was in our notes for class. So that's why I couldn't find it. Because for YouTube, I put my notes somewhere else. So I'm in our class mode, when I need to be in YouTube mode. But you remember during your sermon, I don't know if you asked this question during your sermon, during the chapel, but you asked it when me, you, and Jackie met. You said, how do we define God as being time? Right? How do we define God as being time? And honestly, guys, that should have been how I started out the video. Like I wanted to answer this question throughout the video because that's literally what Pauline did with her sermon. She answered the question, how do we define God with being time? And so like her sermon to me, she titled her sermon, let me see what you titled it. And by the way, you did good just by did you do it from the top of your head, just talking about it just now? Or are you looking at some notes?
No, I'm not looking at anything.
That's crazy. Like you literally said it the same way you did during chapel. So that's how I know like you knew your stuff. Like you don't need an outline, do you, when you talk?
Not when the topic is very interesting to me,
Hmm.
and how society wants to depict who you are supposed to be as opposed who God, and even yourself.
Yeah.
How do you see yourself as opposed to how God sees you?
Hmm. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So women in society's mind, Rahab was not supposed to have in her lineage. I'm not even going to go to Jesus. I'm just going to go to Solomon, the wisest guy, the richest guy. A woman like Rahab, based on society's standard, was not to have a king coming through her biology. That's how society would, look down on people.
Hmm.
You don't know. We don't know. Just let people be. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, even the most notorious person, that's it. It's best if we just pray for them.
Mm.
instead of speak negative over them, over their lives. Because if we do that, a lot of us are so much hypocrites because we love Corinthians, we love Romans, we love Galatians. Who wrote it? What was his life before he wrote it? Paul.
A murderer
Ah,
of Christians. Yeah.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So these, I'm just saying these, and I'm not just throwing it out there. When I speak like this, I'm speaking to myself
Mm-hmm.
as well, because I need to know, because this is, it's very easy that even if someone try to drive nasty to us when we are on the road or say something to us, the first thing we do, we spit things out about who they are. But it should be a place where we can catch ourselves and say, you know what, no, I shouldn't be speaking like that.
Yeah.
There is life and death in the words, the
Mm.
tongue. So it's just a matter. I'm talking to myself. I'm
Yeah.
not perfect. So when I speak like this, I'm talking to myself, that I have to understand that these are people that God used to transform, to change lives, to make a difference. Because what they were doing in their first life was maybe was not what God had called them to do.
Mhm.
So when I talk about God being time, our Kairos, which is that divine time of God, is when it intersects. Our divine moment comes when you're supposed to do what God calls you to do. It is when your chronos moment, which is your regular life of calendar and clocks, connects with that moment when you are supposed to step out from where you are into the purpose that you were called to do or to be. Rahab was that example. When the men entered her place of business, was her Kairos moment, connecting with her chronos and saying, now is the time when you need to shut this business down, because your anatomy is not supposed to be used for this purpose anymore. You are going to step now into what you were placed on this earth to do with your anatomy that has been anointed, what it's supposed to be. So when I said God is time, that's how he described himself, or that's how God is being described. First and the last, Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the one who was, who is, and is to come, past, present, future. So our existence, the minute we came into this world, our existence is intertwined in God, because now we are on the basis of time. Our time starts from when that those two symbols, the egg and the sperm, connect to form life. That's when our time starts, in my opinion.
Mhm.
I don't want nobody come at me. I'm just speaking from how I see things,
Yeah.
you know?
No,
So
I think I took that as spiritual though. Like I didn't just take that as just you being born. You know how you in the Bible it says you gotta be born again.
Yeah.
So the sperm and the egg gotta come together. So you gotta be born again. You gotta have a new birth, right? In order
And
to the
that's your
dead has to
Kairos
be put
moment.
away. Yeah,
Yeah.
same thing. Yeah,
Yeah, that's your Kairos moment now. So now you're in that space of doing what God really, really placed you on this earth to do.
yeah. It's too good. We're about to shut this up, Pauline. I'm ready to get to it. All right. So, how do we define God as being time? Right. That was the question. Right, Pauline. Did you ask that question during your sermon? I think you did.
I
Right.
asked the question, how do you spend time?
Okay. How do you spend time? Yeah. Because that's how I took it.
Because
Yeah.
if God is time, and that's it, and if you look at when you hear people talk about time, time is a sacred commodity.
Hmm.
Oh, I didn't have enough time. Oh, once you lose time, you're not gonna get it back. Oh, time is money. Time is so profound because that's who we are. We
Yeah.
are time. Our existence is straight up time.
That's all we have.
That's all we have.
Oh man. Yeah.
So and when we created in God's image, that's our time being locked in who He is because we experience that past, present, and future.
Hmm.
We experience that. You and I are living in the present now, but each second that pass, we step into the future, and the future continues. We continue to pursue the future until you know our expiration date comes.
Hmm. Yeah. I want to answer this question. This question too good. All right. So, I want everybody to think about this question though. So she said, "How do you spend your time?" Right. But that's how I saw this question. How do we define God as being time? What you think about time is what you think about God. And honestly, what you think about time, it shows how much it shows your love for God. It shows how much you respect God. It shows how much you honor God. Because if you aren't utilizing your time the way that you should, you obviously don't have a good relationship with God. You're obviously not in right standing with God. You obviously don't see yourself the way that God sees you, right? Because when you get your time right, that shows that you got God right. You know what I'm saying? You got the right perspective about God. So it goes deep. Like I had to look up what Chronos and Kairos meant. Like it's so deep. I never even saw these words before, Pauline. Like y'all learn what class did you learn this in? Or you figured this out through a reading or something?
The first time I saw that was in my CPE class
Okay.
at New York Theological Seminary.
Hmm.
And very profound Professor Nancy Fields. Um, I mean, I was getting into seminary after studying business outside of, you go to Bible studies, but getting into seminary, you were given the permission not only to dissect the Bible, but to go deep into God. And so, what she asked us to do in explaining Kairos moment to us was we were to draw a chart and do over the span of your life anything dramatic that took place. So so she gave us example and people were showing, oh, they got married during this decade, they became born again during that time. That was a bright moment. So they would put it in different shades as it happens and the impact it has on them.
Hmm.
Did you get married? Did you um, have your first child?
We should have did that before this video. That would have been good. But we'll do it another time. We need to
Yeah.
do
And
it.
so I realized that, and then I start to realize that Kairos was not just that, you doing these things,
Mhm.
but Kairos was more just like our time is our regular birth time is based on the clock 24 hours a day and then the calendar,
Yeah.
7 days a week, month, year. Then the Kairos was really God's time,
Mm-hmm.
when it would have been that time when you now are going to do what it is that God placed you on this earth to do. That's how I started to interpret. It wasn't just the regular, I didn't see it as just the regular, oh, I graduated high school. That was a milestone. Or I got, it was more than even getting all these accolades, bought a house, bought a car.
Yeah.
To me, I found it to be more than that. And I think that's where, that was my understanding that Kairos moment is. You do these significant things in your life that change your life.
Yeah.
Because if you were single and you got married, it changed your life.
Mm-hmm.
And in the marriage, you start having kids that changed your life as well.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started to look deeper and said it got to be more than just that. It has to, as much as we know that some of these things were God allowing us to achieve them, like the miracle of having kids, the blessing of having a partner. Um, I realized it also went deeper than that for me. And so that's how I started to see it more of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even someone said to me the other day, but God is timeless. Yeah, yes, He is. But then we say God is love
Mm-hmm.
and we experience love. Are we going to say God is so infinite in love that He's loveless?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? No. God way of love, we cannot measure up to it. We will never be able to measure up to it.
Yeah.
Because that is me saying to you, Sean, you need to put your son on the cross. Your one and only munchkin.
Right.
You ain't gonna do it.
Uh-huh.
But you love him, you love people, you love your parents, but you would never put your son there. And so God did that. So God being that love doesn't take away from God being time, because we exist on time. We are like milk. That expiration date is gonna come. You
Uh-huh.
see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So, yes, I know that we cannot put that condition on God to say God is time in our own interpretation per se,
Mm-hmm.
because our mind cannot comprehend his level of time.
Yeah.
Because to be the past, present, and future all in one,
Mm-hmm.
you and I can't do that. We can drift in it, and we drift in it blindly because we don't know what the next minute is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because God knows what the next move is going to be even before we were born.
Yeah.
And I can bring that into this conversation that when I was 12, God allowed me to get a glimpse of certain things. And I started to see them manifesting 40 years later, including the pandemic. So I didn't understand what he showed me at 12. All I knew, I had concern. This also is another manifestation
Mm-hmm.
of what of a concern that I had. And it was during that era when I just got saved. So now my Kairos moment of having a relationship with God started from that early age. And so along that journey, when they said, when you go into covenant with God, there are certain things that you're going to do to represent God in ministry, in witnessing, in telling people about God, and, know scriptures and all that stuff. And I said, and you go into the world and preach the gospel. I was from my little community in Jamaica that didn't even have electricity.
Yeah.
And so I had deep concern. How am I supposed to do this? I was 12. I'm going to be 58 soon.
Mm-hmm.
And God was able to bring this that we are doing right now
Yeah.
to answer the concern I had when I was 12. He's answering it now, you and I. When I had that, how? Through digital ministry. I don't know how far this is going to go, but this is one of, look how easy. In another country from where I had that concern about going into covenant with God and having some of the tasks that I'm supposed to do as a kid, I'm asking, so how am I going to do that? And with time, it started to happen.
Yeah.
The person who invented this platform, when I was thinking about that, was not even conceived yet. So there might be someone in your life getting ready to bless you and to take you to another level that is not yet born. How deep is that?
That's deep.
There is somebody who is going to show up that can bless you, take you out of poverty, and that person is not yet born. How can that be?
Mm-hmm.
And it can be as simple as somebody invite you somewhere, you go, you meet somebody, that person is pregnant, and the event, take for instance a baby shower, it was surrounded the birth of the event of an unborn child. And so you went to this event, you met somebody who is able to change your life. That's God.
Yeah. You know,
Amazing.
yeah. Finally, I was gonna say, like with God, you're gonna have multiple Kairos moments. I don't think you're just gonna have one. I think you're gonna have multiple because it
Oh,
gets
yeah.
better and better with God. We get closer and closer to Him. We receive more and more revelation to Him, from Him. And honestly, it's all dependent on how much you desire, because you're as close to God as you want to be, and you receive from God back what you truly desire from Him. Like He's not going to give you more than what you more than what you really truly desire, because that's not what you want. He loves us so much, He's going to give you as much as Him as you can handle and as you want, right?
Yeah.
And as you
Yeah.
ask for, right?
Yeah.
Because and that's all different things. Because like honestly, I asked for way too much than what I bargained for, because I didn't even know what I was asking for. But that's why,
Mhm.
like, so you see what I'm saying? Like, that gets complicated. But I wanted to say what Kairos meant. Like, just break it down, like, even
Mhm.
further. Like, so Chronos is the Greek word which refers to the sequential or linear time, i.e., the time we measure. It is quantitative, measuring by hours, minutes, and seconds. So, like Pauline said, that's how we measure time. And
Mhm.
how we measure time, how we think about time, how man thinks of time and say what time is completely different than what God has to say about time. What God has
Mhm.
to say, and time is life. Because once time runs out, you're dead. There's no life, right? Except unless you're born again. Then, unless you receive Chronos moments, I wouldn't even just say it's one. It's multiple. Because on a liturgic calendar, we celebrate multiple Kairos moments, like the birth of Jesus, the life of Jesus, the death of Jesus, the resurrection of Jesus, the return of Jesus. I'll go even further. A Kairos moment is when you encounter Jesus for yourself. Like when, for example, when Paul, not just when he was saved, but when Paul was blinded. When he was blind on the Damascus Road, I think he was blind for like 7 days or something. I don't remember. But he was blind for a certain amount of time, and then he could finally see. So that's one. Another one would even be suffering. Like in the book of Philippians, we see that as the most positive book ever. But that's when Paul was in prison. So in our suffering, in our trials, that in our weakness, then we're strong. Then we figure out what God's strength is. In our weaknesses, when we're at our weakest moment and we feel like we can't go on any further, that's when we experience God the most, right? So a Chronos moment, so those are Chronos moments, right? It's a lot of them. Like when the Samaritan woman, met Jesus at the well. What are you going to do in those moments, right? It's not a moment to waste. So like a Chronos moment in a Greek word, it's a Greek word, Chronos, that can refer
Kairos.
to Kairos, my bad. Kairos, it refers to the right time, the right opportunity, the perfect moment. It is qualitative.
Qualitative.
Yeah, qualitative. Sound weird. Marking moments that cannot be measured. All right. So moments that cannot be measured, right? So like these moments are different than regular moments in life, right? And
Mhm.
I like what Pauline said, like there's certain moments that happen in your life and they change your life forever. Like they're not just moments. Like it's times in your life that you can't forget. And it's more than trauma. It's like something that altered something in you and
Yeah.
birthed something new inside of you.
Mhm.
And Jesus even said it. I need to find this verse, but there's verses in the Bible that say like, Jesus said like, you can't put old cloth on a new wineskin because it's just gonna tear
Old
away.
wine. Yeah. And wasted.
And wine skins too. You can't put old wine skins with new wine skins. Like you just need new ones. Like
Yeah.
so the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
thing. Like God wants to take away the old to bring out the new. The old has to go away for something new to happen. Like in order for God to really have an effect in your life, like you have to deny yourself, humble yourself,
Hmm.
pray and seek His face. Then He'll heal your land. Then you'll receive revelation. Like it's steps to this. It's levels to this. Right. So like yeah, Pauline's message was so powerful because in order for Rahab to really take advantage of her Chronos moment, like she had to deny everything she's ever known
Cause
to be willing. Yeah.
she opened a business. She got up the morning, opened business as usual.
Hmm.
These guys didn't call her and said, "Yo, Rahab, we're coming to check you out." It this was, as you said, this was that Kairos moment that flipped the switch in
Yeah.
her life.
Hmm.
It wasn't planned. That's why I'm saying you can go places. They invite you to an event. They don't tell you all the people who is going to be on the list. You just go with the fact of having a good time with the person who invited you. You didn't know that they were going to invite this person who would have changed your life forever at this event based on what they can contribute to your life.
Right.
But guess what? God knew.
Hmm.
God knew. So that's just the. So when I ask about how do you spend your time, how are you spending God? Because God is time. Are you wasting it? Are you using it to oppress people? Are you using it to elevate people?
Hmm.
Because that's what God gave you this time to do because it's Him. So when you use God to oppress people, when He sent the Son to help the marginalized and those who are oppressed, and now you want to flip His time to use it to destroy other people,
Yeah.
that's not going to sit with God.
Hmm. That is
And
deep.
then if you continue to use that, maybe you might just say, you're not using it wisely. You're not using me wisely. You're using me to do opposite of what I want you to do. So we need to talk.
All right. Yeah, you titled your message originally Rahab the Negotiator when you preached it during chapel. Um, I
I,
titled it I titled it today Rahab's Kairos moment.
okay. Because yeah, I think it was what the title was. It's a divine interruption.
Hmm.
Enough is enough. Because her business got interrupted when the guys came. And the funniest thing too, those guys could have either been a blessing or a curse to her when they came into her place. And so when they came, it could have been a disaster if the king knew that they were there. And so her negotiating skills kicked in because now enough was has now become enough. And she was supposed to cut it off. That's it. No more. Not business as usual. I'm gonna file chapter 13 and move to another and move to another place. This is no longer my life.
Hmm.
This is no longer her life. Now she's gonna live the true meaning of her life.
Yeah.
And you see, it is in the midst of a war. It's a near death experience. And a lot of times, some of us have to experience near death, encounter near death experience for us to come into the full purpose of what God has called us to be.
Yeah.
And I could attest to that. I remember when not that I was not serving God, but my faith went up another notch when I had to do emergency surgery. And I remember kept coming out of the anesthesia and I said, God, I was asking God why. He saved me. And he said, I did this for you. You have no idea what I can do for you. And it's from that that I start to see God manifesting himself in profound ways that blow my mind, including this moment that you and I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if the pandemic didn't come, I would not have been at Colgate Rochester.
Mm.
If the pandemic didn't come, I would not have been working from home. At this time, I would be on my way. If it during my Chronos moment, I would have been on my way coming from work now.
Mm. Nah, it's
I
late.
would have I would have never known who you are.
Uh-huh.
So this was one of those moments when he said, you have no idea what I can do for you.
Yeah.
So these things I don't take for granted, Sean.
Hmm. Yeah, we
I
shouldn't. Yeah.
yeah, you can't.
Yeah. When you're in God's alignment, when you're aligned with God, and you really utilize your time the way He wants you to,
Yes.
you're not going to take time lightly. You're not going to take life lightly. You're not going to take His blessings lightly. You're going to, do everything it takes to be like the parable of the talents, to try to maximize those talents. You know what I mean? Try to utilize those resources. Try to, you know, receive even more talents yourself, right? Increase the interest in the talent so that when the master comes back, oh yeah, I'm pleased with that. Like, good job.
Yes.
You don't hide it. Like,
One of the things that is troubling for me is that the world did not understand. You see, the mere fact that the entire world was shut down at once, I don't think people understand that. Hmm, there gotta be something. Think, think. Don't just think of, oh, it came out of China. The world was shut down at once.
Yeah.
Think about it. And the mere fact that God chose when hundreds of thousands of people died who didn't even leave their home, got COVID and died. And the mere fact that God spared your life, don't take it for granted. Don't take that time for granted. So, this is one of those moments that even when I read scriptures and I see the flood, only 8 people were dying in COVID. Like, we were wondering, is there gonna be anybody else left? And I remember saying to my sister, well, if it's not only 8 people leave, then I'm good. And these are some of the things that enforce my belief, reinforce my belief that the event of the flood took place.
Mm.
It did happen. When I saw COVID and the world, I said, the flood did happen. I don't think a lot of people believe it happened.
Yeah. Don't believe a lot of stuff.
Yes.
And it's like what Jesus said, in the days, it's gonna be like in the days of Noah. Nobody believes, and all this stuff gonna happen in the book of Revelation. And it's there, it's written. Like,
Yes.
we were warned. But they're
Yes.
still not gonna believe. It's the same thing. Same thing. Just like
Same
'cause
thing.
they don't got their time right. Right. But I want you to talk about this too. You know how you talked about, I like how you broke down how Solomon and Boaz, no, Solomon and David, like they operated the way that they did because of Rahab, like because their ancestor, right? Like the stuff that they learned. I think, yeah, Rahab is David's grandmother. Let me look that.
Or great grandmother.
Great grandmother. Okay,
Or maybe, yeah, I think it was great great grandmother.
I got.
But if we just go to Boaz, Boaz was a businessman. I think Boaz might have been, I don't know if she had other kids
Mm-hmm.
than Boaz, but Boaz was her son, even if I'm going to say it was her firstborn. And Boaz was a savvy businessman that saved Naomi and Ruth. And he was known as the Kingsman Redeemer in the family of Naomi. So he had a business. That's when Ruth, when he had his workers and they were harvesting, and he was wondering who Ruth was, and then he told the supervisor in the field that they should drop um, more consumable grains along the way that she could pick it up. So, he was helping in certain situations based on his purpose as well. And so he was a businessman getting that business skill from his mother, although at the time when he was born, she was no longer in that business. Because remember now, business got shut down.
Yeah.
So, so it's very profound. And then from that lineage, you got David. So you have Boaz, then Obed, Obed,
Oh yeah, it did skip Obed. Yep.
then Jesse,
Oh wow.
then David,
Uh huh.
and Solomon. And Solomon was the richest dude and a businessman as well. And you see how many wives he used his anatomy for.
Hmm.
And these are people that God was, you know, using for the Messiah to come. He's going to come from the lion of the tribe of Judah. Very interesting.
Oh yeah.
Very interesting. So I could see that, you would ask this question, where did they get their um, business and royalty and prominence in the community? Rahab was a part of that.
Yeah. That's crazy. And then last thing too, you talked about Beyonce's gift and how she should be using it for a church and how dangerous she would be if she did that. Like, same thing with drug dealers. Like, how they utilize their time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in my humble thought of the gifts that we receive from God that is supposed to honor Him, similar to Rahab, she has a anointed anatomy, but she didn't understand what it was supposed to be used for until it got interrupted. And so we have a lot of these, singers. Their gift is to honor God. Drug dealer, they have very good discerning spirits and gifts. They know which corner to go on to make money. It's not used the right way, but the gift carries an anointing because God placed that in them from they were born. Before they were born, it's just that they're not using it the right way. Some of them get the chance to change, some may not. But we all have those gifts. God is not going to put you on this earth unless He has a purpose and a mission for you. It's only unfortunate that some people miss that. And they did not use the time wisely. They did not use God wisely, or grace is still being extended. And they need to make that change.
All right. All right. And yeah, man, that was the message. Like, did you have anything else you want to add, like that you didn't get to say, or you think you got everything out?
I think I did because um, I started to write. I started once my thoughts, sometimes you're taking a walk, sometimes you're doing the dishes, and these thoughts come to you. Sometimes you're listening to music, you're reading the scriptures, and you're listening to motivation speeches, pastors preaching, and you just hear something. They might just say one word, and it triggers something that would be a contribution to a phrase, a statement that I would need to build on. And so I had my drafts, and I would write things down as they come to me. It's just like a music writer. They keep their notepad and pen by their bedside, that as they get those vision and inspiration, they make sure to write it down. So when I hear something, because I would ponder, especially when I started to dive deep into Rahab. Um, I start to ponder about her life, and I start to go into that time and just to see who she really was based on my own interpretation as the Spirit leads, and what it would have been like, going to the culture, going to the time and see. And we know the Bible is written from a patriarchal standpoint, and just wanting to know how was she seen in the community, and was she one of those women who could hold her own, you know, um, in the community. And so that's where I get my inspiration. That's where I was able to, write things. So, and I think I got everything out because I had enough time when I was told what I need to do, and also along the line of the theme of the seminary for the year, God is with us.
Mm,
That as well as inspired me to write about her, because it would, a lot of times you would think that God might not be in certain things, but he's there. He's always there when she's doing her business. Who is there? God is there. Until he knew it was time.
yeah.
It was time to say, nope,
All
nope.
right. Yeah. But yeah, I think we're gonna call the video. We almost had an hour, so I gotta end it real quick. So
Yes,
guys, if you enjoyed this video, that's Pauline. All right. So hopefully she will be on our collaborating with our ministry and a part of our ministry like for a long time. Like I told her I've been trying to like beg her like I want her on my YouTube channel like this all the time, especially for Bible studies and stuff like that. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Uplift Past Crossroads. We're also on any podcast platform you can think of. Let me show you the social media platforms real quick. All right, so if you got a question, you want us to answer your questions on social media, DM me on my Facebook page, Sean Christopher Jenkins, and we'll answer your question for you. But those are on my social media platforms. Check them out. I post every single day on all of them. Right, I'm gonna start back posting photos and stuff on my Instagram pages. I haven't done that because the Instagram police have been making me mad. All right, I haven't posted in like a year almost. All right, but anyways, on Upload Past Crossroads, you see I got a whole lot of playlists, a whole lot of videos on here. So this is our 561st video. All right, so if you enjoy this video, go to these podcasts. I mean these playlists on our channel, Seminary School. All right, so this is when I go live with anybody from Seminary School, or I talk about any articles or anything I read from Seminary School. So I'm gonna have way more videos for you on that. It's just hard to do right now during like finals time, basically. This is a very intense time at the end of the semester. All right, and then one of my favorite playlists. I haven't done a video for this one in a minute, but it's titled "Women in the Bible." So I want to talk about women in the Bible way more than what I do. So Pauline, maybe you can help out with that because I love talking about women in the Bible, man. Like I receive so much revelation from passages like that, especially like Shiphrah and Puah. Those are my favorite two women in the Bible, probably of all time, right? And then like Rahab. So as you can see, I only got two videos. So this is our third video. We're adding into this playlist on Rahab, right? So those are some playlists that you can get more of your feel for. If you want to dive in even deeper what we were talking about. So in the future, it'll be way more videos on those podcasts. I mean, on those playlists for sure. And then also, I just want to leave you guys with this message. So I wrote these notes in 2023 on August 6th at 1:46 p.m. It is on Rahab, right? And it's actually Esther ties in with this as well. So and I was gonna do a video titled "Step into Your Moment," right? And it goes perfect with what Pauline was saying. So step into your Kairos moment, walk into it with everything you got, right? Because God has a now moment for just you, right? He has a
hmm
now moment waiting on you, a Kairos moment. And the
hmm
question is, what are you going to do in that moment? So God is calling you into your now moment. And this is your moment. If you watch this video all the way through, I know you were blessed by this video and what Pauline's sermon was all about. So now you got to walk into it. You got to embrace it. You got to take it on, right? Like God's calling you up higher. Are you going to accept the call or are you going to deny it? Because, so many scripture verses that goes with what we were talking about today. Like, for example, many are called, but few are chosen. Like, God is choosing you for more. Like, you receive this moment for a reason. So what are you gonna do with this time, this Kairos moment, your now moment with God? So, and God chose you for such a time as this, right? He chose you for such a time as this, just like with Esther, just like with Rahab, just like with anybody's called. David, Solomon, I can go through with anybody in the Bible, right? That's called by him to serve him and love him. So what are you gonna do in your moment? This is your moment. So embrace it, walk in it, and become who God wants you to become, and utilize time the way He has called you to utilize the time, because the time is short. And just like Jesus said, you know, uh, I have to do the work that God called me to do while it's daytime, because night
Mhm.
is coming. So death is coming, winter is coming, night is coming. You ain't gonna have that Kairos moment forever. But if you're called by God and you receive Jesus as your Lord and Savior of your life, then you'll have that Kairos moment forever, for all eternity, right? So, yeah, I just want to leave you guys with that thought. So that's Pauline. Hopefully, we see her on like at least 2,000 more